Good evening, sisters and brothers. Thank you for tuning back in to the Melanin Report 360. Thank you again for tuning in. And I wanted to just take a moment to reflect on certain things. So thank you for following, sharing, subscribing. Thank you for following, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you for following, sharing, and subscribing to the Melanin Report 360. The Melanin Report 360. The Melanin Report 360. So yeah, let's get into it. I was a little reflective today with the Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I went to the health club and did my thing, and uh, just had a good workout, and just wanted to stay, focused on my wellness and all things that are good. So I just want to take a moment to reflect on the years of Dr. King's life. And this is the day that we were celebrating his journey here. And it was a tough journey, He was met from, well, let's go ahead and read the Fair Use Act disclaimer so I can dot every I, cross every T. So before I get started, again, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute, which may otherwise be infringing. Okay, so definitely want to do that. And so I hope everyone had a good day. Like I said, I went to LA Fitness. I kind of stayed, close to the house and just, reflective, just thinking about his life and what he probably, I just have a snapshot because I was, let's see, he passed in 1968. So I was just 5 years old. So I remember certain things, the sadness in my household, but I don't remember anything clear cut. So I know that it took several years for them to give um, his recognition of his life, the day of reckoning, and we finally got it here in the state of Arizona, one of the last states, if not the last state, to recognize it as a federal holiday. So a lot of banks, everything was closed. Businesses was like a 50-50. I try not to do anything, monetarily. And so I just tried to stay kind of close to the house and, reflecting, reflecting, reflecting. So I believe that, I titled the topic, was this dream his dream? They only talk about the 19, I think it was 65 speech, which was on the mall in Washington, D.C. But I don't think that was obviously the more, I don't want to say controversial, but it was a safe speech kind of thing. But there was, I think, one of his last speeches, and that was back in 1967. He talked about Vietnam War. So he came out against the president at the time, and he was for the war, and King was against the war. And so, he was really a proponent of to say we should not be going to Vietnam. So it came under a lot of criticism, et cetera, et cetera. So I think his life, if I can just reflect, it was full of some level of controversy. He kind of started safe in the area, in the arena that he was in. He stayed safe, and the conversations, perhaps not privately, but um, publicly, he remained safe. But towards the end, even though he didn't know it was the end of his life, I'm going to say the last 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, he literally did not. He just pull out all stops. So whatever he was wanting to do in alignment with the president or not with the president, it was like, I don't care. He had the opinion, I don't care. I don't have anything to prove. He was a very wise man beyond his years, and albeit controversial, but he made changes. Changes were made. Um, some people will say, well, he was a sellout and a this and a that, but you know, we haven't had another king. Probably we've had another king, but not front and center, as it were, because we've had many kings or queens. I don't want to say that, but front and center and assassination and like, wow, so who right now will knowingly lay down their life for a cause? Not too many people. But yeah, he wasn't even 40, and that he accomplished so much in those years he was on this planet and beyond. And I know that his spirit is perhaps like, what has gone on with this country? But it's nothing surprising, the events. And I guess his last few years on the planet, it was more reflecting. And he said, he didn't know if he was going into a burning house. It was some quote, and I don't remember looking at that one. But, excuse me, he was definitely questioning some of his prior statements and beliefs, because he knew fundamentally that this country was not built on love. It wasn't started on love. It wasn't approached, with love. Wonder if slavery never happened. Where would this country be if slavery, I can't even get the word out. That's why it's like a disconnect. If slavery never happened, where would this country be? Have you ever thought about that? Where would this country be? Would it be like any other country? Would we have any of would maybe the playing field would be leveled? There wouldn't be any reparations. If people went to the motherland and they said, okay, we want to build this new land, And can you support us? We will pay you. You have the skills, you have the skill set. You've had empires upon empires. We've been around since the beginning of time. And so, can you collaborate with us? What about that? I mean, color me crazy. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't have any notes in front of me. So I'm thinking out loud. So, how would this country be? Where would it be without the slave trade? Where would this country be without the slave trade? Have you ever asked yourself that? Because it would be not be the country it is. I can assure you of that. And so we have to like pause for a second to just recognize, where would this country be without the free labor of 400 years? It wouldn't be the country that it is now. I do believe that. You can't tell me it would be the country it was. It turned out to be. Excuse me. So what I would say is, the country would have been built, quote unquote, fairly, perhaps colorless in that way. And perhaps we have we have a stake in each division, if you will. And the country probably would have been the greatest country in this world, truly. But they had to take property, our ancestors, which they considered property, and put them to work. Not only put them to work, I don't want to gloss over that. So to have a system, a slave system, I know that there have been systems like that, but our ancestors were beaten, raped, sodomized, burned at the stake, fill in the blank. Okay. And yet we're still here. And yet we still rise. And yet we're still here. That's the miracle of Martin. That's the miracle of Deanne. That's the miracle of your family line. So this is a miracle. And like this miracle, we are a miracle. Dr. King was definitely a miracle. He came in a time, I think he was born in don't hold me to it, I want to say 1925. I think Malcolm was born in 20. Well, anyway, he was born in mid 20s. Okay, I'll keep it safe. And it was, it was just a few years after 1865. I mean, we weren't even free for 60 years, 50 years, somewhere in there. So this was an environment that obviously not only the South, because, Malcolm said anything south of the Canadian border is South. So we don't see, benefit being in the North versus being in the South. So he saw it all the same. But with that said, he came up in a time that was horrific for our people. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. And so we pay tribute to his life and his legacy. Not always I would say not without controversy, because whenever someone goes up to the top, there's going to be things coming at him or her. So Dr. King was no different, especially at that time. There was no internet. There was no, we barely had rotary phones back in, yeah, in his time for sure. So I think we had 5 digits for the phone or something, and we got 7 digits, and then we add the area code. Ooh, that was big. So yeah, but he came up in a time that was not popular, especially dealing with the issues that he was dealing with: race relations, poverty, struggle, um, poor people, enfranchised people. So disenfranchised. So let me spit that out. But yeah, it was not a popular time, although we had Malcolm, which was, I don't even want to say polar opposite. I think at the end of the day, they had different approaches to the same situation. But I think at the end of the day, they were getting closer in alignment with the similar belief. And so that's debatable, but clearly that could have been, obviously they were both killed within like a couple of years. Yeah, they were killed. Anyway, so yeah, we really want to acknowledge his life, his legacy, and all that he attempted to do in his way, in this in his fashion, in his way that he knew. It was mostly biblical based, but it was again socially based, and civil rights, so why can't we ask for civil rights? So if people are civil, that's the first word, civil. So if you're uncivil, we're asking for civil rights. Okay, because we're assuming that you are uncivilized. That's the prefix. Uncivil, uncivilized. So to civilize a people, you're assuming that they're uncivilized. And so the land was free, the toil of the land was free, and it was what was. This is what has happened for, several hundred years. So it just goes to show you we have never been wrong. Our people, we have asked for justice. No justice, no peace. That's my mass. No justice, no peace. Black Lives Matter. And so today, 2021, January 6th, 17th, 2021, we're still asking for the same thing. This is what's going on. We're still in the same country. We're still asking for the same thing. As if, let's see, 68, 78, 88, 98, 08, 08, 18. So over 50, yeah, I can just subtract my age. So it was like nothing has changed. The needle has not moved. Very, very little. Very, very little. And the fact that we have a first Black president 4 years ago, ended his term, well, almost 4.5 years ago. And we elected, I don't even know what adjective I want to use. I'm going to try and keep it super clean. But this is where we are. The insurrection last week. What would King do? What would King think? What progress, seriously, have we made? What type of progress? We're still redlining our districts to buy homes. We still pay higher interest rate on home loans, car loans. You know, these are just the two, immediate. We still have redlining. Like so much, how much progress in 56 years? No, he's been passed on. So 50, 68. So that is 23 years. No, 53 years. Sorry, 53 years. So what has been the improvement or improvements? Can we name any and all? Can we name any and all? I'm waiting. I don't believe so. I don't believe, fundamentally, yes, we're not necessarily being hosed in the street. But if there is a peaceful protest, we see the difference from last week to this week, or, the peaceful protests of BLM and then the insurrection last week. What a difference. What a difference. Is that what King wanted to see in 2021? Could he imagine that? Had he lived to be like, and he'll be in his, I guess, his 90s. What kind of thoughts would he have of all of his hard work and the hard work of people around him, all the work that was necessary? I don't want to take it lightly. It was necessary work. It was the work that he signed up to do. I'm sure that, he went through hell and high water. There were death threats. I mean, imagine having children, having a wife, and you've had death threats. So what type of people? Civil rights, uncivil, civil rights. We're asking for civil rights in 1968. Okay, civil rights. Ugh. So the first word is civil. So we're dealing with uncivilization because that's the first word. Civilized, civil rights. So I don't know if he would be happy. I don't know if he would be pleased of the work and the work of others. It seems like the needle has not moved much or any, because hatred is still the underbelly. It's not going to be, walking down the street, you're going to have rubber bullets shooting at you. But the hatred is in the boardroom. The hatred is on the job. The hatred can be, like I said, the banking institution. The hatred could be on, applying for a loan, a car loan, blah, 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 high interest on car loans, or, my name has, I don't want to say protected me, because I don't think that's the right word. It's been an interesting life in this body as, Deanne Meningall. So with that said, I think the most egregious that I can think of was when I went on very, very early in my career. And I went on a job interview, and we're going back 30 some years. And kind of in mid sentence, because they called my name, and I stood up, and and they said, no, we're asking for DM. And I'm like, this is me, and it was almost like shock. Oh my God, we have to regroup, And so the application, this was back when in print, so you'd have to circle the jobs, and this is before the internet and all that. And so you go on the interview, you call and, get the interview and blah, blah. And so they actually changed the description. It was something with the description and also the pay, the salary. I was like, oh my gosh. So I've had this pretty much all my life, with the name that I have and the response to my name. So perhaps you're not expecting me when I show up, but it is what it is. So, yeah, but that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But I really want to focus on, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he was a powerhouse, he was a powerhouse man. And I know that his legacy continues to live on, but I don't know how much it has been realized in this incarnation. In this, here we are 40 some years later, 50 some years later, and we had the insurrection at last week and a half ago. So what have we been able to accomplish? We had the first African American president, followed by the first, I don't want to use profanity, the first racist, not that there wasn't before. I'm not trying to say that, because a lot of presidents owned slaves. They own slaves. So I'm not trying to say Trump was the first racist president. I'm not going to say that, because that wouldn't be a true statement. But what I am saying, it was front and center. It was front and center. And he tried to hide it, but at the end of the day, your truth will set you free. And it just kind of kept bubbling up, mocking people, disabled. I'm like, who does that? Civilized, uncivilized? But anyway, so this is where we are. This is where we are, 2021. I think that he had a remarkable life in the short years, he was on the planet. He attempted to do quite a bit of things, and some, he moved the needle just a little bit. And I know there were others, Malcolm had a different approach, but he was able to move the needle a little bit. So a couple of little bits, kind of added up to one little bit. But clearly, I don't want to take anything away from either people. We're talking about Reverend King, but yeah, I think that his legacy continues. His legacy lives on, and perhaps it'll be in my lifetime. I don't know. I don't think racism. I don't think people are conscious of it because it's so automatic, and they don't even think that they're quote unquote being racist. And that's the biggest problem of the liberals being They don't see their own internal racism, but it shows. It shows. I'm not going to say 100% of Caucasians or people of color are racist. That would not be a fair statement, and that would not be a true statement. However, the people who are front and center of this whole thing called racism, inequality, blah, 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 we don't hear from the little person, little, but we hear from the people with the noise, the people who call in of saying, I don't understand why Biden is going to be president because it was illegitimate. This is the information that they're imparting. So Biden didn't win, and blah blah blah. And these are, your your people, your people who are in high places, and they're spewing out as if it could not have been a legal, reputable election. It had to be some backdoor stuff. I don't know. We have a lot of things that it keeps us coming and going. We talked about that a couple of nights ago, or a couple of last week. The system is so distorted. You have people coming and going. You got, people. I think I read a report that an African, I forgot which city, a black woman, you know, killed her 2-year-old daughter and then a murder suicide. I'm not, I lost for words. So we have to really be careful, cautious, and be really, really diligent of, watching out for each other. If you live alone, call your mom, call your sister, call your brother, hey, I'm home, I'm good, you know, just have an accountability for people. Let's start doing that again, because we can't take anything for granted right now. This is a season of dotting our I's, crossing our T's. We cannot take anything for granted. And, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's another plague or however you want to see it, but we have to be very, very careful with our verbiage and our company. We have to really be cautious and, just, if you meet people new, vet them as we do. So, kind of have them on a 90-day as if you were dating and say, well, I'm going to see how things are going before I invite them to my home or I go to their home. You have to vet people. You have to really be a little bit more, yeah, I mean, I can be friendly. She can be friendly. He can be friendly. That would be nice. But, just have your extra ear on the pulse of the person. And so now we just have so much negative things that are spewing out, social media, so forth and so on. So just use all your tools to make sure everybody's on the up and up, especially when you're coming into your circle. So your immediate circle, that tends to be a little bit hands off for me, unless I know you. So no one's just coming in my house like like it's Wednesday, I got 5 people over the house, over at the house. No, 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 no. So we really need to be, like I said, not paranoid, something between paranoia and concern, and get a sense of knowing in your gut. Once we have all of these in place, these items in place, we can perhaps, and don't be at your home by yourself. I'm just being real. I really want to drive the point home that what we were taking for granted a few years ago, right now, I would just be a little bit like a pause, just, step into the pause mode, and make sure that you're protected, and that we, as a people, we are protected. However, there can be some missteps. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I wanted to read a passage from when I was talking about last week. I think it was not yesterday. I think it was a couple of days ago, or 4 or 5 days ago. And this is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I wanted to, there was quite a few, of quotes from him. And I want to just leave with this. Yeah. So this is a quote. So that old law about an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. The time is always right to do the right thing. And I talked about that a few days ago. We should always, as a people, we should always do the right thing. We should always do the right thing. That's our nature. That's our energy. That is how we get down, if you will. When you do something and it's wrong, it's like wrong on all wrongs, okay, and you still do it. Be careful with that. Be careful with that, because when someone is egging you on and doing, even though in mid sentence it's wrong, it's not proper. So don't be in alignment with that energy. Please don't. Be in alignment with truth. Be in alignment with love. Be in alignment with justice. Be in alignment with peace that passes all understanding. So be in that alignment, and you will find that your life and your living will not be in vain. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Always do. I'm going to read it again. So the old law about an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. The time is always right to do the right thing. So yeah, Ashe. So keep that in mind, coming from the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He wasn't a perfect man, and that was not the requirement to come to this planet to be perfect. So I'm going to clear that up. But he was a man for the time. And to this moment, we can still learn from Dr. King, right or wrong or indifferent, wherever your stand is on the political spectrum, we can always learn something from these great jewels in our community. And so that's not to say there aren't any other great jewels. So this is the one we are commemorating his life, his legacy. So I think that's all I have. I think that's all I have. I wanted you all to be safe. We've got a lot of stuff going on, not only with COVID-19, we've got people who, I think there were some folks from the insurrection last week and a half ago, and there was some suicides around that. So be safe, you know, be upright, be safe, be upright, and always stand on all fours all fours on your square. That's what I'm trying to say, on your square. So stand on your square, and you will never be wrong standing on your square. So with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Follow, share, subscribe, like. Follow, share, subscribe, like. Follow, share, subscribe, like. The Melanin Report coming to you under the Melanin is Medicine. The melanin is your medicine. Your melanin is medicine. Your melanin is medicine. This is the Healing Well. That's my other business, the Healing Well. So it's a couple of layers to get to this YouTube channel. So you can definitely go to the Melanin Report 360. The Melanin Report 360. The Melanin Report 360. So I'm Deanne. I hope you enjoy your evening. Stay safe. Be well. Take care. Bye-bye.